Hey DMD family, welcome back to another Discs MD video. Bunky here, and after coaching softball for nearly 2 decades, I've been through squash the bug, and I've been through drop and turn the knee down and in. And guess what? There's a better way. Let's get to it. Roll the intro. All right, everybody, welcome back to another Improving My Game video. Before we start, Zone OS up for grabs at 500 subscribers. I don't know if I've said this on video yet or have showed this on video, but this first run, Zone OS, up for grabs when we hit 500 subscribers. I'm going to do a giveaway. So go ahead, subscribe, like, invite your friends over because I want to give this away as fast as we can. And as soon as we hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to do that. So, all right, let's get into the video. All right, so today's video is going to be about my discovery over the past week with my timing. My last video was about my backhand timing, and if you haven't seen it, I'll put the tag up here. And I know Josh from OverThrow just put an excellent video about backhand timing throwing today. So I had this one lined up. So me and Nick Carroll and Josh from OverThrow all doing backhand timing, which is great timing. He does full timing from soup to nuts, beginning to end, and it's fantastic. And I'm sure I don't need to point you to where OverThrow disc golf is, and I'm sure most of you have already seen his video, but if you haven't, I'll just throw it in the description below. By some miracle, if you're watching me before him, which shouldn't happen. But I've been doing my timing drills, and you saw them in the last video, and I've been very frustrated with myself because I know that I have to brace and then turn my hips and then get my shoulders and then get my arm through, right? That's the timing sequence that I have to follow. But if you watch Josh's, he says the number one issue is people come through with their shoulders as they're stepping. And that's what I found myself doing. So he's 100% right. And even though I'm trying to focus on my timing, I'm bringing my shoulders through as I'm putting that stepping down. And here's the reason why. Because I'm thinking about turning my hips or uncoiling the wrong way. So it's, okay, I got to plant and then I got to turn my hips. Instead of thinking I need to use my plant to turn my hips. So let's talk about hip rotation for a second. How do we rotate our hips? And what do we mean when we talk about hip rotation? When you talk about hip rotation, most people think what? This movement here, right? This isn't necessarily hip rotation. This is me turning my pelvis back and forth, right? And if you would stand still with your shoulders and your feet and your legs still and just try to turn your pelvis back and forth, how much movement do you have? Very little. Because this is not necessarily hip rotation. If you go and Google hip rotation, what you're going to find is a lot of people showing you how your leg moves in relation to your hip joint. So they'll have you to test hip flexibility. They'll have you sit on a chair with your leg in front of you and rotate your leg in. This is internal hip rotation, or out. This is external hip rotation.
And yes, to my observant viewers, I did mix those two up. So the first movement is external rotation, moving my foot in, and the second is internal rotation, moving my foot out. I'm also aware that I am oversimplifying this a little bit and that there is an element of pelvic flexion within hip rotation. But for the purposes of this video, I'm merely focusing on the rotation of the femur in the hip joint.
And internal hip rotation is the most flexible and the most powerful movement in most people. So when I talk about hip rotation, it is my leg in relation to my hip joint. So how does that translate into my backhand throw and using my brace to rotate my hip? I was talking to Yanni about this because I was so frustrated about it, and he was trying to walk me through how to use my brace to turn my hips, and I'll put the video that he referenced down below. And it's not me just rotating my pelvis, it is me putting my foot into the ground and using this, pushing down through the ground to internally rotate, and that turns my hips. And it's tough to explain. You really have to do it. So if you get your foot out in front of you, right, and bend your knee a little bit, I have to bend my knee a little bit, and just keep everything else the same and just push away, push off the ground. What happens? This hip goes backwards, right? And it's because it's the only thing that it can do. And what technically you're doing is you're internally rotating this leg and driving your hip back. So pushing down through the ground initiates my hip turn. And I'll put another video down and link below. It's a baseball instructor teaching how to swing a baseball bat. And he said the most important movement in swinging a baseball bat is internal hip rotation, because he says you get coiled on the back leg, and what am I doing right now? My leg's staying the same, but my pelvis is rotating around my leg and internally rotating this back leg. So my coil is internally rotating my back leg, so all my pressure is here. And then Josh talks about the weight shift to the front. It's not externally rotating this hip. It's now pushing off the ground and internally rotating this hip to uncoil me. And when I figured this out, it instantaneously improved my timing. So the timing is put the foot into the ground, push down against the ground, and that then initiates the hip turn. So my timing isn't about me thinking about when I need my fire my hips. It's about when my foot goes into the ground, pushing against the ground and forcing my hips open. It opened my eyes. And this is so much more pushing into the ground and rotating my hips from my pushing down into the ground. It's so much more powerful than me trying to swivel my hips. Just do it. Stand up, put your foot into the ground, little knee bend, and then just push down on the ground and open your hips up. It's so much more powerful movement, and with the timing mechanism built into it, it makes it so much easier, right? Especially for these standstills, right? When I stand here, I coil, and then I push into the ground and open myself up, right? The standstills are pushing, and I have to bend my knee. It's just a mental trigger for me to push into the ground. So coil up, push into the ground, and open the hips up. And then my X step, my one stepper looks like coil, hit, and push down to rotate my hips. And that's why Yana tells you to push down, push down. And it's pushing down on the ground to force my hip rotation. Now, the caveat to this is it did not instantly fix my timing. Notice I didn't say that. It instantly improved my timing, because the run up is still tough. I took it to a tournament and tried it and fail miserably. But I'm now to the point where I see where I'm going with my timing and opening my hips after my plant. And Josh is 100% right. You got to coil till you plant. And then once you plant, then it's firing the hips and moving the shoulders through. What I plan to do is go really, really slow. So I don't have any tournament scheduled until July. I'm going to take a month and a half, and just go really slow, and be satisfied with throwing 260, 270 at 50%, or 40%, 250 at 40%, and really focus on hitting the ground, pushing to turn myself, and just really, really slow. Slow is smooth, smooth is far, and just over accentuate the slowness until I'm hoping in July I can get to the point where I'm throwing at 70%, and then go from there. So a quick video. I don't want to take a lot of your time with this. I just know that this was real eye-opening to me, and I'm hoping it is useful to somebody else out there. Put in the comments below what you think about it. We can talk about it. I have a lot more to say on the subject, but I don't want to make this too long. I know your time is valuable. So until next time, enjoy the journey, and here's your verse of the day.